here's my review of Normal. I found this to be a very fun movie. It is about a sheriff who gets transferred to a small town named Normal. And right off the bat, you could clearly see that, okay, something's going up with this town. Something's wrong. And I think that this movie just does a good job of just making you feel like, because this movie's only about an hour and a half, like it spends the first about half an hour just making you feel not necessarily uncomfortable, but just suspicious. You're suspicious of everyone you meet. You're suspicious of the places you go. And it constantly just has you questioning yourself. You questions who's really the good guy, who's the bad guy. And it's very fascinating and compelling. Like, towards the beginning of this movie, we just have this sheriff. He's kind of just stopping minor little, like, problems, whether it's, like, just a domestic, like, argument or just, like, these arguments in a store. And it's just fascinating because it puts you really just on the ground with these cops, just these little crimes. But every time we just see something that just feels a little off. And I think it just does a really good job to help the tone. And because this movie is only about an hour and a half, when we do get our reveal. It's a relatively kind of like 40-ish, maybe a little less than that into the movie. So I'm going to get into like full-blown spoilers here. But overall, I really liked it. Yeah, the whole town is basically paid off and corrupted by the Yakuza. And I thought that was just so fun. You're adding this Japanese crime element in, putting it inside of a relatively small movie in terms of how it feels, because all these crimes and all this little, like, everything feels very small. It's just great, and it makes this movie just feel so much bigger, but it still feels like it has like the small, intimate moments that makes the action feel even better. And what I really like is also just like towards the beginning of this movie, we see him, like, he has to go in for this arrest to arrest this couple that it's robbing a bank or this other store. And then he gets shot at from the other cops. And then immediately you know that something's going on. And seeing him work with the criminals just makes it more compelling, because you're like, okay, who can you trust? Who you thought you could trust, you can't. And who you thought you couldn't trust, you are the good guys. And it was awesome. And obviously, like, with a movie like this, you can't talk about it without just talking about the over-the-top action. Like I said, I don't know if this is the same director as the guy who did Nobody, but it might be the same, like, stunt crew and, like producer or whatever, because it does kind of feel very Nobody-coded. But because of that, the action is just an absolute blast to watch. And I think it works so well because the movie feels like almost like a slow burn for the first half an hour, although I still really liked the first half an hour. When the action, like, starts, it just has that big of an impact because we feel like so, like, normal. It feels so, like, just everything's perfectly fine. And then when the action comes, it feels just like, oh, wow, we're doing this. And it just makes it feel that much more grand, especially when he's working with these, like, petty thieves. It makes it feel like, oh, wow, this is bad. Like, we cannot trust even the other cops. I mean, this is a movie that has a bar fight between cops and the Yakuza. And it's just the crazy over-the-topness like that is just what makes this movie so much fun, because I think because of the first slow burn of the first 30 minutes of us just feeling very, like, getting to know this very quaint, tiny town, it makes the action feel that much more crazier, allowing it to be more entertaining, because before, everything just seemed normal. And now we're getting this really crazy action, and it just adds that extra jolt. Because in other action movies, maybe where it's kind of action, maybe you could get a little, not necessarily bored, but numb to it. And because of the slow burn of the first 30 minutes of this film, I think that it makes the action scenes that much more impactful, because we're like, oh, okay, I didn't really expect this. I mean, even if, like, you go in obviously knowing this is an action movie, which it is, it maybe just feels more like a tonal shift, but in a good way. And I mean, seeing Bob Odenkirk shoot a bazooka, it's always going to be fun. And it's really crazy because it makes all the action feel a lot more personal because even though we're uneasy by this town throughout the first half an hour, 40-ish minutes, we do kind of get to know other people in the town that maybe you think you can trust. And then seeing him have to fight them and kill them, it just makes it feel like, oh, wow. And it just kind of turns it on its head and makes it just feel that much more grand. And I think especially just with the snowy aesthetic, it allows for the stakes to feel higher because, okay, yeah, you could, I mean, even if you try to run away, you could freeze to death. In the snow, it's dark, it's snowy. You can't see who you're fighting with. And when, like, this whole action scene in this movie is just crazy. It's so much fun. And it's really when we got to this point where I'm like, okay, I'm in. Even though I was always in from the beginning because I just thought that Bob Odenkirk's character was so compelling. I'm like, okay, here's where it's going to get crazy. And it does. And it's in the best way possible. I think a movie like this, you're kind of going to know if you want to watch it just from looking at this poster. Because in many ways, yeah, it's kind of not necessarily predictable, but more, and not even generic, but more just, it's more of the same in terms of like this is similar to Nobody, which is a movie I loved. But it has that kind of slow burn personal aspect of Bob Odenkirk's character, but with the over the top action. But I don't know if I enjoyed this movie as much as Nobody, but I think what just made this movie so much fun is I think the whole atmosphere of the town of Normal is just really compelling. And it just gives that small town vibes. Like when he's in a diner, just talking to people, eating food, it just gives you that sense of comfort, but in an uneasy way because you know something's up. So it's just like this, the whole vibe of this movie in this town of Normal, it just makes you uneasy. And it just allows for the action to just be that much more fun. And I think it's really fun seeing him team up with who were essentially just thought were like these kind of crooks, like this one teenager, like late 20s girl, and then this criminal who was trying to rob the bank. And just seeing how it gets flipped on its head, I think just works really well. Of just him having to work with people who you wouldn't expect against a threat that you wouldn't expect for what this movie presents. Because it just goes so over the top with it. And it's just a lot of fun. Small town action, small town hero, but with the Yakuza, just making it so crazy, so much fun. Definitely check this movie out.